What's up guys, Bryce here, and we're back at it again for another video. And here in this video I have my first preseason league race, and it was at Brazil, and I thought it actually went pretty decent. We are approaching the first qualifying lap, so you can just see the new game and everything in full, because I haven't really done any real racing online with this new game. And I actually only practiced for about an hour with this track, so I was still trying to get my bearings with the game and this track, because each year the tracks do change just a little bit. We got a pretty good entry to the first couple corners here, and I was really aiming for a low 105, but you'll see here this is the fastest lap that I was able to get. We got a purple first sector, and this is tier 2 also, so this is a pretty competitive grid, even though we didn't have a full grid, which is unfortunate. But we're up by 2/10 here, and this track is a very short track. Really, momentum is key, and of course carrying as much speed through the corners as you possibly can. Getting a super late apex for that corner will really help you onto this straight here. And then in this game you cannot use that grass on the right, which I guess you could say is a good thing, makes it more realistic. And the exit curb you can actually use now. That was the first thing I noticed, is that I can actually use that curb without the car losing rear grip. And we're up by almost 2/10 of a second, and we come across the line and it's a 105.9. So we were able to get that goal, but I knew I could go quicker. But again, I didn't really have much practice, and I was practicing at other tracks as well as I'm playing career mode and just enjoying that. But we are third on the grid for this Brazilian Grand Prix, my first ever 50% race as well, which I wasn't so sure of how it was going to go down, because I didn't even know the strategy either, which you'll see in this race, which is basically what screwed me up in this race. But we're just waiting for the rest of the grid to reform. I don't think it was a full grid, but we have about 36 laps ahead of us, first ever 50% race, and we are about to go underway. My starts, I would say, are pretty good on this game actually, but I didn't get a crazy launch off the line. We kind of keep the position and everyone keeps their form, which is good. And already we have a car going down the inside. I wasn't gonna do anything crazy. If he wanted to take it, he could, but he backed off, and the grid is already spread out just a little bit here, just by half a second between us. So a good start already, no crashes, but already we have a virtual safety car that came out, which means of course we have to reduce the delta. And this was not a good time to pit. Obviously don't pit on the first lap under a virtual safety car, but that ended, moved on to lap 3, and on lap 3 we can see that Legend in P1 has a drive-through penalty, so we knew that I didn't have to worry about him in the time, and he goes into the pits to serve that, and now we are in second place for this race. And we put in good laps just as everyone else does, and now we need to focus on the strategy and mainly the long game, just because I've had instances at this track where I was a bit too aggressive in trying to get the win. I've been in situations like this before, so I kind of stayed back for a little bit behind this Ferrari and really didn't do anything crazy, because I knew that we needed to, I was really going to push once that pit window came, but if there was an opportunity to overtake, then I was going to take that opportunity. And we're just trying to stay with him and try to pull away from the guys behind, so that I can kind of basically do the strategy I want to do, because you don't want to waste too much time fighting with the car ahead, obviously, because then the guys behind would catch up. But I do really enjoy racing in F1 2021 a lot more than last year's game. I just find it more enjoyable. I think they've made a few minor changes that really made a big difference, such as the curbs being more realistic. The weight of the car feels a lot better in my opinion, and I do like the setups a bit more. They're more simplified, I feel like, than in the other game. Most of the tracks, the setups are very similar. Before, it was a little erratic with the different changes in the setup, such as the wings and everything like that. Lap 6 here, I believe, is where I passed him actually, and I was able to pass this Ferrari on this front straight. And we're gonna get DRS very soon, and we use our overtake, and we saved up our overtake so we could just get a clean move right here, not having to waste any time at all, just pass him. And then going down at the turn 1, braking late again. That first apex there on the left, you have to be careful. You could really use that last year's game, but now it seems to have a bump to it, and it's really difficult to use all the track. The lap times are only slower by about a few tenths of a second compared to last year. And here is the lap where the pit window opens, and he did hit me a little bit, which I was caught off guard by, but I did fix the car a little bit because it did get out of balance. And then now this is our pit window, so we are going to pit on this lap, and I am going to let him go because, again, I don't want to waste too much time. We try to stay with him, but we can't. We're going to let him go. But this is really where I screwed up the strategy. I did not know anything about strategy for this track, so I just went with what the game told me, and that was to pit for the hard tires at lap 13 and take those all the way to the end. But it turns out everyone else pit for the medium tires, which would cost me in the end, and I could have potentially won the race if I would have got the strategy right, but I did mess up the strategy, and that's all part of the game. So you'll see here, we're gonna go into the pits right after this corner, and we go on this straight here. And I don't think I was pushing too hard on this in lap, but a lot of people had penalties, and I had 2 penalties towards the end. One of them, you will see what it is, and we go into the pits super quickly, and we are good by 1 mile an hour, so that was a perfect entry to the pits. I could have gotten a penalty, and here we go, putting on the hard tires to go to the end of the race, but little did I know that was not the right strategy. And I kind of knew in the back of my head that I wasn't sure, because you rarely use hard tires in a league race, and the only exception for that is if you're pitting like on the second lap because of damage, or you're driving at a track such as Bahrain or Singapore, the really high temperature tracks where the tires do not last. But on a track like this, really the hard compound is just way too slow compared to the mediums, and you will get swallowed pretty quickly. But again, I wasn't sure. I already made the choice, so I was just going to push forward and see what we can make out of this hard tire. On lap 15 is where everyone else pit, so I was able to catch up, and you'll see here I'll move up into first place, and I actually had a pretty good gap, surprisingly, on these hard tires. The undercut did work, and I had a pretty good gap of about 1.5 seconds basically. And again, if I was on the medium tire, this could have been completely different, but I wasn't. And then a safety car comes out, and now we're pretty much screwed because the whole field is bunched up. And yeah, this means that now, I don't know why I did this, but I decided to go into the pits again to pit on the medium tires, and we get a speeding penalty for speeding in the pits. Went in a little bit too fast. I shouldn't have done that because there was a safety car. So really the speeding penalty is kind of what messed up this whole race and messed up the momentum. As you can see how disappointed I was. And we pit onto the medium tires because we made that wrong choice in tire. Because if I would have stayed out, I probably would have gotten swallowed just due to the lack of grip on the hard tire. So I'm not sure if I made the right choice. Now that I look back at it, I probably should have just stayed out, because any pit stop you do, you're really going to lose a lot of position and time. Even if I was on the hard tires, I might have been able to make it to the end. But that was really the crucial mistake, was the strategy. Pitting onto the hards, and then I had to go back to the mediums, and then I got a penalty. So the race just restarted, picked up 1 position there on the left, but now it's pretty much a sprint race all the way to the end. But I have a lot of cars to clear if I really want to win this race, and a lot of these guys are really fast, and if I didn't get past Legend in front of me, it would be really difficult because he's one of the fastest guys in this league, and if I didn't get past him, it would have been pretty difficult to make any ground up. So, and at this point my momentum was already screwed up, and I didn't really have much hope for finishing high up. Even though I was in 5th, I already had a 5-second penalty, so I could be in 1st, but I would have finished very low down. So the penalty really is what screwed me up, because if I would have stayed here where I am and we finished like this, I could potentially finish on the podium. But that 5 seconds screwed me up, and I was already getting track limit penalties, because once you get 1 warning or 1 penalty, the momentum is shifted, and then now you start to lose focus due to that. But again, we're pushing decently hard. Mediums definitely felt a lot better than the hard tire, and it felt a lot quicker. Who knows what the race would have looked like if I was on the hards in first? I wouldn't be able to say. Looking back at it again, I probably would have stayed out. But if I didn't mess it up in the first place, I wouldn't be in this position. So that was the main mistake, and on this lap I made a pretty big mistake, went out on the curb, and then that really upset the car, and then I lost 2 places for that, and I took out the brake markers. So now I'm down in P7, and some people are on the softs, so I pretty much threw my own race away. but I was pretty happy with the pace, and considering I had very little practice, it was actually very fun. As you can see, that little bump right there will cause oversteer going into that corner. And 23 of 36, we have a few laps left, and it's actually a pretty long race. We had a lot of time left. Anything can happen. On lap 32 is when the grid started to spread out a little bit more. It was me and these three guys and the guys in first, but now you can see here we're gonna make overtake on the Aston Martin down the inside. I've been battling with these guys for a while, but I've kind of stayed behind. We go wheel to wheel with the Aston Martin, but going into this left hand, we run out of track, and he's able to stay in front as he did for basically all this race. And I picked up another penalty, which means I had 8 seconds. So already this race was basically gone. Almost did a dive bomb there just by taking the normal line, and luckily he did go a little bit wide there. This corner here, understeer a lot, but again, I do really enjoy this game much more than last year's game. Lap 34, we have 2 more laps, and you can see the tires are really going off. Don't have a lot of tires left. DRS Open still trying to fight these 2 guys in front. We almost go down the inside, a little bit of contact there, focusing on the exit, and as you can see, we have the DRS and we're on the outside here, but we don't have ERS. We have very little overtake, and you can see at the top of the screen we have 15% overtake, so we don't have anything. We wasted it trying to stay with these guys, and there's only 1 lap left. So I at least wanted to pass this guy, but even if I did, it wouldn't matter because he has no penalty due to his clean driving, unlike us where we did do that speeding penalty and went off track once. And it is the last lap of the race. We weren't able to pass him, and we might have to just deal with a P5 because the gap behind us is 20 seconds. But unfortunately, one little mistake can cause a lot of mistakes to come after, because if I didn't make that mistake, who knows where I would have been in this race. But it was a really fun race overall though, and there we go, finishing the Brazilian Grand Prix in 5th place. Pretty decent preseason race. I'm more excited for the actual season because I really need to work on the strategy. Strategy was kind of my main deal last year in Tier 1 as well, so we're gonna try to focus more on that for the season. I have a few hot lap guides coming out obviously for the upcoming season. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like down below. Super excited for the season to get going, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.